Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream, and thank you so much for tuning in to another show. The United States administration, primarily Donald Trump and the delegation that was sent there to speak with the Iranian diplomats and officials to talk about a potential deal, a treaty, a ceasefire, an all-out something between the United States and Iran. Now, everything is all of a sudden switching back up again. All of a sudden, after all of these talks, we're hearing about more moves. Now, of course, all of the move to do with the talking to Iran and sending a delegation saying that the negotiations were good could well be part of a plan, part of a theater to try and deceive the Iranian side. However, what the United States has done now proves even more than ever that they're fully ready to have an attack against Iran with an immediate effect. This was primarily with the deployment of more air defense systems, including primarily loading their Patriot missiles to be used in their THAAD systems, with the THAAD systems in Al Udeid base. More observed moves came from US bases in Jordan as well. Jordan is a very strategic location where the Iranian missiles were targeted when Iran was sending missiles on the Zionist entity, and they have more moves now. Okay, so what does that all say? Is it part of the deliberate confusion that Donald Trump is doing? Is the United States only saying that it's talking because it actually wants to attack? Is it using this deployment as leverage with the talks to take more from Iran, to have more concessions from Iran, or what exactly? Now, it wasn't only that. It's the statement that came from none other than Donald Trump himself, that the United States is actually considering sending another aircraft carrier. And they're sending a warning. They're saying every ship must remain at maximum distance from Iran. What is this exactly? These are threats, warnings. Again, they could be part of a psychological warfare campaign being conducted against Iran, or really and truly this whole talk thing was just a show. And the United States, from its perspective, it's going to attack Iran undeniably, and that is it. It's going to happen one way or another. All of this is coming simultaneously with the departure, soon to be an arrival, of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the United States of America to have a meeting with Donald Trump and tell him basically, Donald, if you don't attack Iran, I'm going to release all of the other files and you're going to pay a heavy price. And Donald Trump will just listen like an obedient boy and then go and attack Iran. We're going to talk all about this in this live stream, alongside the stark warning this time that came from Iran about something having basically an all-out war, a global war. A recent statement came from one of the most senior figures in the military establishment inside of Iran, who spoke about these threats coming from the United States of America. We're going to talk all about this in this live stream, and of course afterwards we will open the space up for community participation. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to newsvpro.com, our recently launched platform and tool to make you understand exactly what's happening around the world with an uncensored AI and podcast generation, talking about the most trending topics all around the world in a verified manner, removing all of the bias and misinformation and propaganda. Make sure you subscribe to newsvpro.com. Okay. Now, the American president, Donald Trump, is having more threats. What is he saying exactly? And why is he saying it now? US may send another, listen to this, another aircraft carrier to the region. And he warns of tougher action now against Iran. He hopes that he gets a good deal. He's talking about also potentially adhering to the Israeli demands too. But he's saying that he might actually be sending a second aircraft carrier. Now, let's just hold on for a bit with this aircraft carrier thing. It isn't something light. It's not like it's a joke, sending an aircraft carrier or two to a specific location. This indicates that the United States is not only looking at the thing from a strategic perspective, but actually is intending to take action. They already know by now that the intimidation effect is long gone, especially after the attacks that came from Ansarullah in Yemen. Now, yes, Iran has more to lose than Yemen. However, the United States and Israel have a lot to lose as well. And we're going to get to the statement that came from the Iranian official in this regard to do with Israel and the global effect of this war should the United States actually begin such an attack. Now, what did the United States do exactly in the past 24 hours? This is what the United States has done. Full deployment in all of the areas in Al-Udaid, surrounding locations. They moved all of their missiles, air defense missiles, loaded them for quick maneuverability to be instantly available. Well, not should now, we might say when they begin the attack against Iran. This move could also be a signal to the hosting country, Qatar, that they're deploying more in case Iran wants to attack. Iran already told them, we're not going to attack you as a country. You have a base, we're going to attack the base. Every base, as a matter of fact, every base of the United States and, of course, the Zionist entity. Now, these missiles are Patriot missiles, and they're now putting them in mobile truck rather than semi-static launcher stations, which means, of course, they're going to be ready to deploy and strike immediately in case Iran responds by attacking the bases in Al-Udaid or in other parts too, not just in Qatar. In Qatar and in other locations as well. So they have the deployment, they have the air defense missiles now deployed and ready in dynamic mode, ready to be used instantly. And they're also warning everyone. They're saying you can't go to Iranian shores, basically. You need to step away, keep maximum distance from Iranian waters. So what is the United States, in essence, trying to do here? They're trying to, well, what they're actively doing now is imposing a live embargo themselves. They're trying to impose a live embargo with their forces there. Because they know that the embargoes are no longer effective. They said they want to have another embargo, an extended embargo against the Iranian shadow fleet that is operated to be used as a backdoor, basically, against these aggressive and hostile measures coming from the United States and its proxies against the Iranian people. Now, you need to remember that very well. The Iranian people, the Iranian nation. It's not against an establishment. It's nothing to do with crimes and whatever it is. If they were really upset about the killing of innocent people, they would be having an embargo and taking military action, 70 years ago, against the genocide state. But of course, everything is selective. Things are rigged. Everything is manipulated. And they're pretending like it's against the establishment. It's against the regime in Iran. Help is on the way. Like Lindsey Graham always says. President Trump will make the right decision. Help is on the way. Continue protesting. And he'll open his nostrils like that. Help is on the way. I wouldn't be surprised if he's part of this cannibal cult. We'll get to Jeffrey Epstein in a sec. All right, so where are things headed to then? The United States trying to impose an embargo, apply maximum pressure on Iran to extract as much as possible from them in hope that that would somehow work with Iran without taking military action. Therefore, from an American Zionist perspective, they would get what they want without firing a bullet against Iran. But tough luck, you know. Iran is not just a tough cookie, you know. Iran is a tough bakery. It's not just a cookie here we're talking about. Iran is a tough country. They don't submit to the ridiculous demands of the United States administration and the Zionists, the same culprits who murder, exploit, kidnap, dismember, and eat children. That's in essence what it is. You heard the Epstein files. Is there like any reason not to say it? I don't understand. Why isn't it mentioned as it is? In Israel, in the United States, in several other locations too, there is a group of people that kidnaps, abuses, rapes, and dismembers and eats children and infants in rituals based on the evidence that came from the Epstein files. No, instead they'll tell you, oh, actually Epstein was connected to Russia and Putin. Did you see an email from Jeffrey Epstein to Putin? They want to twist everything around. Everything has to be, you know, on a clean slate when it comes to their administrations. But unfortunately for them, the Epstein files are too big now, too big to be covered. So the United States wants to attack Iran and they want to apply maximum pressure. But what would happen if they actually do attack, and what are going to be the responses? Someone in Iran made a very important statement. Mohsen Razai, a leading figure in Iran and its military establishment, he said, if the wise people of the world do not stop Trump and Netanyahu, World War III will break out. So Iran is now saying it's not only the bases and Israel, no, World War III will break out. And he made that in a televised speech during which he mentioned all of these things to do with the United States and the attack. Let's listen to this video over here.
کارهایی ترامپ و نتانیاهو کرده که هیتلر نکرده بود، چنگیزخان مغول نکرده بود. کارهایی انجام دادن و آنقدر این آبروریزی درش هست که با این اسناد اخیری که از اون جزیره منتشر شده همه دارن میرن تو این سوراخ‌ها که دیده نشن، عکسشون پخش نشه، حرفی در موردشون زده نشه. آنقدر این جنایت بزرگ از زنده به گور کردن، از تیکه تیکه کردن بچه‌های نوزاد گرفته، از اقدامات اخلاقی بسیار وحشتناکی که انجام دادن، زشتی که انجام دادن، این یه جریان راه افتاده. قرن 21 با این حادثه شروع شد. ما در شرایطی زندگی میکنیم که با یک رویداد جهانی.
So, in case of a global event, clearly, it's going to lead to world war based on a very rational reading of the events. You know, the United States attacks, Iran is not accepting a limited strike policy or offer. They were offered to be struck twice and then respond once, according to some reports. Donald Trump told them, strike us once when we strike you twice, and we'll call it game over, you know. They told them, Ali Shamkhani, the senior advisor of the Supreme Leader, told them that's an illusion. That's not going to happen. Limited strike is an illusion. Any strike means all-out war. All of your bases will be attacked, and we will hit Tel Aviv. Now Mohsen Raza is saying that the Zionist entity will be destroyed. No longer Zionist entity. Are the Iranians serious about that? Is it just another threat? Well, they have a pattern now. There is a pattern. Iran attacked Israel 3 times in the past 2.5 years. They didn't tell a movement to strike Israel. They didn't tell, no, they responded. Yes, it was as a response to an attack against them. But not all of them were just as responses to an attack against them. In True Promise 2, Iran said that their response is also for the assassination of the Secretary General of Hezbollah, the assassination of the Hamas leader in Tehran, and also for the innocent children in Gaza. At that time, they extended their response basis. The basis initially was only if you strike us, we will strike you back. Well, they use a different doctrine now. That is very likely. It is very likely, and it's very likely that it will be something that will escalate further because everything is going to be on the table. You know, Iran is not going to accept a limited strike. From their perspective, it's an all-out war. Any movement, any country that relies on Iran for support, for backing, from their perspective, it's going to be a case of do or die. Because if Iran goes, the main backing for them goes. And that is not going to happen. Israel and the United States, they can spew their garbage 24/7 as much as they like. That will not be happening. Because from an Iranian perspective, number one, you're talking about a hugely solid and powerful, self-reliant country that has very good relations with the opponents of the United States administration. You have millions of people ready for it. That has been proven, tested and proven since the 80s. Just 1 year after the revolution, they were dragged into an 8-year war at the time with Saddam Hussein, who was actually supported by the United States with that war against Iran. And millions of people suffered due to that. That was with Iraq. Now imagine what can happen if it's the United States and Israel. And the prospect of this becoming World War III isn't really just, you know, exaggeration or anything as such. If you look at it from a very wide angle, if you look at it from a strategic global perspective, you will see that we already have so many fronts on fire. in Europe, in Palestine, West Asia, tensions in South Asia. Trump is threatening his allies, America, Latin America, Africa. So from an Iranian perspective, if the United States would go on and that is it, they would probably want to put an end to it once and for all. And chances are the United States will either attack Iran on its own or repeat the same thing that they've done before. Negotiate, say that, we haven't reached a deal, and then Israel would attack, and potentially the United States will get dragged into all of this. Okay, that's from Iran's perspective, the prospect of war and what can happen over there. All right. What is happening on the Epstein front? More details are emerging now. And one of the most interesting thing is the fact that the files that are coming out are slightly revealing the network that Jeffrey Epstein used to transport the people, the children, the kidnapped, abductees, hostages, victims, the people that they killed, the children that they killed. How? This was an image that you might have seen on social media. Jeffrey Epstein with a man called Sultan bin Sulaim, next to what is called the kiswa of the Kaaba, the cover of the Kaaba, which is the place that the Muslims pray towards, the holy Kaaba, the direction of prayer. Why does Jeffrey Epstein want the kiswa for the Kaaba? It has Quranic verses. Was Jeffrey Epstein, what is it exactly? He managed to obtain one through some of his connections. And here we see him with a man called Sultan Ahmad bin Sulaim. And that is the kiswa, or the cover of the Kaaba when it's on. What was the Jeffrey Epstein? Why was he using it? And by the way, just as a disclaimer here, that photo hasn't been disproven. So no confirmation this is fake, and no one denied its existence, and there is no evidence to say that it's not true. Yes, there is no guarantee that it's 100% true, but there is no evidence that it's not true. And from the email communication, we do know that he was interested in obtaining it. So even if this specific image wasn't real, although again, there is no evidence to support that it's not real, the essence is there, and he obtained it. How did he obtain it? There was the email communication that relates to Jeffrey Epstein having the kiswa of the Kaaba that included other figures from the UAE. Okay. That's just one snippet here of some of the communication about the kiswa and what it includes, what it has. So some of the people who transported it to him went some lengths to, explain some of the Quranic verses that are there and send it to Jeffrey Epstein. Why is this significant? Why am I talking about this? It's not for the cover of the Kaaba, although that may relate to potentially, I don't know, a blasphemous act, a satanic ritual. Who knows what these people are in? What happened to the people, the living, innocent people, is more important than a cover of the Kaaba. Although, of course, it's considered a desecration and it's despicable, disgusting, hideous, you name it. The list goes on. But it's the human life. All right. What does human life have to do with these people? Why is human life not really regarded in the case of these people? It's because this man, Sultan bin Ahmad bin Sulaym, is the chairman and CEO or DP World chairman. Yeah, chairman CEO of DP World. Okay, what is DP World? DP World is a multinational logistics company based in Dubai. Why is a multinational logistics company important for someone like Jeffrey Epstein, and why is he connected to the chairman and CEO of the multinational logistics company? Well, firstly, let's read some stats. Multinational logistics company based in Dubai, UAE. It specializes in cargo, logistics, port terminal operations, maritime services, and free trade zones. DP World handles 70 million containers that are brought in by around 70,000 vessels annually. This equates to roughly 10% of global container traffic, accounted for by their 82 marine and inland terminals present in over 40 countries. Until 2016, DP World was primarily a global port operator, but since then, it has acquired other companies up and down the value chain. These are the countries that they operate in: Europe, North Africa, Asia, Australia, Latin America, South Africa, Romania, of course, the Gulf, Vietnam, UK, Germany, so India, Serbia. All right. Why is that relevant? Well, that's relevant because this could have been one of the transportation methods to traffic people and girls and children. If he's sitting there with the CEO of this DP World, and they're able to control where things go, how things go, and more importantly, hide certain things in containers, very easy to hide things in containers, then he could have been the transporter. He could have been the transporter. That's a very high likelihood. And there are certain emails as well to do with, again, more of their hideous mention of torture and abuse of underage girls. Now, if this guy ran this company, this organization, and he was in communication with Jeffrey Epstein, isn't that something worth looking into? Because we're not making judgments here, we're only assuming or thinking out loud. If he had a communication with him, if he had a connection with him, he had that much power, like the case of the Rothschilds, and him saying he represents them. So we have the trafficking element, transportation element sorted, financial element sorted, data and tech, Peter Thiel and co., Bill Gates, politicians there to control like puppets. So are these things not worth looking into? Isn't Ghislaine Maxwell someone relevant to talk to? Apparently she's practicing her Fifth Amendment rights, so I heard. Oh, she has a right to remain silent. No one has a right to remain silent when children are getting abducted and killed. You don't have a right to remain silent. But it's somehow, they're seeing this as something acceptable. It's acceptable for this man, who we know what he's done, to be connected to so many people at so many levels without any scrutiny whatsoever. And again, like a statement. Okay, we're not saying go and arrest everyone, although they would in individual cases, poor random people, civilians. Petty theft, you get put in prison. But no, a global chain that is operating, includes children, sacrifice, rituals, rape, abuse, the most disgusting things you can think of. As in the most barbaric things you can ever imagine. In a ritualistic manner too. Is that not worth talking about? Or at least, asking people for statements. Oh, hi there, you were mentioned in an email, you had a back and forth, you saw the man, and you have this operation going on. Can you please clarify, what happened? And maybe they can start looking into it. But the FBI apparently isn't even interested in looking into stuff. Like was the case with George Bush, the father. And the statement that came from one of the victims who said that he saw him performing a ritual act that included infant sacrifice and eating his intestines and dismembering people. The FBI didn't think that this was worth looking into. Maybe someone else on the Epstein Island does that with their code names. Pizza, beef jerky, and what have you. Lord knows what they meant by that. By the pizza. And the more time goes by, the more it's clear that they are intending to release or have already released some of that information, although not full, by the way, not to the full capacity, and not all of the videos and all of the audio recordings and all of the images, just to have a show to the people that there is some level of transparency. There is some transparency, but without taking any action to get to the bottom of the operation and to see exactly where this extends to. Whether or not there's something live happening now. Whether or not Jeffrey Epstein was just, a handler. Maybe he was a small thing. And the fact that they're not doing these things leads us to suspect, at least, that they are complicit in what this man has done, including the people sitting on this information and still not clearly fully releasing everything as it should. A lot of the information is still hidden. And also not taking any action to understand the scale and stop the potentially ongoing operation. And these are the main things that I want to share with you. We'll open the space up for some community participation, take some questions with the time we have left with the community. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. to another live stream. If you have any questions in particular, if you wouldn't mind highlighting them so I can do them quickly. Bujar Mahmoud, how long will the US and Western people wait before they finally catch their leaders by the throat once and for all? How is that the Satanists don't feel any threat? It's because the same people, and that is no excuse for anyone, by the way, understood how to carry out these operations and get away with them with hardly any sort of repercussions. They understand some rules of power. They control the narrative. They limit your capacity. They mislead you and entertain you with all sorts of stuff. They don't. So what I'm talking to you isn't said everywhere. It's not like you're watching your main channel on television and they're telling you what I'm telling you. No, they're telling you like snippets. Oh, the Epstein files have been released. You know, there has been a photo of Prince Andrew and Bill Gates. Oh, but we know that. We do know that, you know. Now tell me about the real things, as in, you know, something new. There's 3 million files published. There's an email that you can access online and start looking through everything. So that's how they do that. And I don't think, however, that it's not coming with a level of scrutiny and anger. Like if we want to talk about the United States, and again, that's part of their game. That's part of the establishment's game. They're not showing how many, for example, protests there are in the United States. The protests against ICE, the fact that they're expelling them from so many locations. And the fact that this has impact with elements who have been liberated and liberated themselves from the Zionist grip in the United States of America. They don't tell you these things. Did they start showing you all of the protests of Donald Trump against Donald Trump, for example? They haven't. And it's important to remember these things. And Glenn Huxley, thank you so much. Pure Satanism by Lavrov. Absolutely. I mean, how else can you describe it? That's what they're doing. He's just saying it as it is. I mean, that's no exaggeration. Salam Mahmoud, that was from SAS Master. What are your projections for the upcoming war? Do you believe that it is inevitable, and when you do project it will happen? When do you project it will happen? And what are the possible outcomes? Well, there are multiple scenarios here in the upcoming war between the United States and Israel on one hand and Iran on the other hand. And these scenarios, and I'll share the recent deployment images with you of the air defense missiles. This is just in the last 24 hours. In Al-Udaid, this is what we began the live stream with. The level of preparations indicates almost without a shadow of a doubt that the United States actually wants to attack Iran, not just posture and intimidate Iran, because this level of deployment and them potentially talking about, oh, we want to send another aircraft carrier now. You know, these things are not to be taken lightly. I believe it could happen in any given moment. And I had the same thought for several weeks now. Any given moment, the United States can begin an attack against Iran. Then, what are the possible outcomes? Should Iran follow what it said and actually practice the threats that it's been talking about in recent weeks. The fact that this will not be taken as a limited strike, any attack will be an all-out war. They will attack the US bases and they will attack Israel. That means that the level of response coming from Iran will inevitably lead the United States and Israel to also attack more, because it would be a total destruction to their image. I mean, the United States has been already humiliated multiple times. It doesn't matter how hard they try to cover it up. They have been humiliated by far less capable forces than Iran. The United States and NATO went for 2 decades to Afghanistan. What did they accomplish? Taliban the day that they left, and Taliban never left even when they were there. Do you think they're going to do something with Iran, as in take down this? It's not going to happen. If anything, it will probably create a fiercer Iran. It's like Israel, and the more it attacks and oppresses and kills the Palestinian people, you'll only create more resistance against you. But this time, there would actually be a prospect of this reaching to an all-out scale that would include other countries too, not just those who started it. And like I said, I think it can happen at any moment now. Fight back, Mahmoud, please comment on Indonesia sending troops to Gaza. That was reported, but it hasn't taken place yet. And also, Turkey sending forces wasn't taken off the table yet. Donald Trump even mentioned that during his previous meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, by the way. So it hasn't happened yet. And now both Israel and the United States are trying to tie the rebuilding of Gaza with the disarmament of the Palestinian resistance. Another thing that's not going to happen, but is just being used as an excuse by the Zionists to continue their depraved dreams of slaughtering more Palestinian people. However, there have been certain moves, and Donald Trump didn't rule out certain things. So in the next few weeks, we'll see exactly how that happens and whether the ISF will include Indonesian troops or Turkish troops too, and what is going to be the shape of this mission exactly, and how long will it operate there, because we heard that if they begin, and technically, according to some reports, their existence there, their deployment should have taken place in the beginning of 2026. That hasn't happened yet. And if it does, it will only be limited up to mid-2027, by the way. And that was from Fight Back. Lasfi, do you think Iran should enforce any Palestinian demands on Israel if Iran gets the upper hand on missile front, for example, withdrawal from Gaza, West Bank, high-value prisoner release? That's interesting. I think Iran could be at a position to do that. Did they mention anything as such? They mentioned disarming Israel. The foreign minister, who is supposed to be the head of diplomacy, as in the main man using diplomacy, said in a conference in Qatar not long ago that it's Israel that should be disarmed. So if he's saying that at a diplomatic level, what can they impose on the ground? The reality is they can impose things on the ground much more than what Israel can impose on them. And I wouldn't be surprised if it would reach that stage should everything go all out. And it looks like it will. Because neither Israel nor the United States administration are backing down. Israel and the United States are on the offensive 24/7. And not just with West Asia, but with Europe too. You're seeing what Trump is doing. We know boycotts are successful if mainstream media is forced to cover it. You know, boycotts are successful and they have an impact because the success is the impact. It's not necessarily like totally defeating the other side. No, it's the impact that it has. But that doesn't necessarily, by the way, lead them to cover it. What they try and do, however, mainstream media and its backers basically start to address certain things to appear to be covering. But in essence, they're really not. They're just trying to gain a bit more legitimacy from the people who actually boycotted them so that you can go back and listen to the rest of the propaganda that they have to say. And it's important, of course, to never trust them. As a matter of fact, many of those who are claiming to be, you know, on the oppressed side and what have you, we saw their recent position with Iran. And some of them were exposed in the beginning of the genocide too, when they were condemning the Palestinians. Okay, guys, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much for tuning in. And for everyone who participated in chat. And Glenn Huxley, thank you for your super, much appreciated. We'll hopefully be with you with more videos and live streams in the coming days. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe again to newsvpro.com, our recently launched platform that will help you understand everything as it is, no propaganda, before shaping your opinion, knowing everything exactly as it is with the help of uncensored AI. Also includes personalized podcast generation, where you can choose the topics that you like, and it covers all of the trending topics that we have globally in terms of news and current affairs. Make sure you subscribe to newsvpro.com. And if you're interested in merch as well, you can visit the store with the links in the description. In the meantime, everyone, thank you so much again for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, or evening, or whatever time it is where you are. Stay blessed, take care, and I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Salam.